Welcome to Gone Rush Movies Explained channel. We appreciate your interest in our content. Before you dive into the exciting world of movie explanations, we kindly request you to subscribe to our channel. Zygote tells the story of a woman who has been pregnant for 13 years. After all those years, her body is being taken over by her unborn child, and her child lives using her mother as her skin. The movie opens in a house containing two occupants, a man and his pregnant wife. It appears that the man, Ty, is heading out of town and leaving his pregnant wife all by herself. This realization alone causes the woman to be terrified and scared to be alone. The woman begs her husband not to leave, but her pleas fall on deaf ears. With his mind already made up, Ty assures his wife that he will be back in time to witness the birth of their child. Before leaving, the man signals to a jar containing some sort of medicine a midwife had given to him. Apparently, the medicine is supposed to prevent the wife from going into labor until the man returns. On his way out, Ty reveals that the contents of the jar are enough to last for some years, and then he walks out, leaving his wife behind. The wife waits patiently for her husband, but he doesn't return. Several years go by, and the pregnant woman clings to the hope that her husband will soon come back. She keeps taking the medicine her husband gave her to delay her labor. 13 years have passed since her husband left, the jar is now empty, and the entire house is in a huge mess. The baby has grown significantly into a teenager, and she is now able to talk and have conversations with her mother, but she is still inside her womb. As a result, the woman's stomach gets too big, making it impossible for her to walk anymore, so she moves by crawling around the house. One day, the woman, who looks like she didn't take a bath in those 13 years, hears some noise from outside the house and drags herself on the floor towards that noise, thinking it might be her husband. She begins to call out his name, but when she reaches outside, she realizes it's not her husband but a cat. She catches and kills the cat and begins to cut it up inside the house. At the same time, the woman has a conversation with her unborn child. Her child mentions how she is tired of eating the same thing and keeps mentioning being born out of her mother's womb. The woman's response is that she doesn't know what she'd do if, after being born, the child left her all alone. Clearly, the woman is feeling lonely. The child seems to know this, so she tries to comfort her mother by talking to her. The conversation ends with the woman promising that the child would be let out as soon as her husband returns. Later that night, the woman is unable to sleep due to pains from her large stomach. She tries to reach for the medicine her husband had left her with, but she soon finds out that it's empty. Sensing her mother's suffering, the unborn child mentions again about being let out of her stomach. Not wanting to lose her relationship with her unborn child, the woman begs the child not to leave her. Taking that as a cue to come out, the unborn child stretches into the mother, taking out her internal organs and becoming her, wearing her mother's body as a bodysuit. Now able to walk around freely, she throws away all the remains, cleans herself up, makes the house in order, and enjoys her life. One surprising morning while she is making tea, she hears the door creak, so she goes out to look. She discovers it's her mother's husband, Ty. She tries to get answers to where he's been, but he refuses to answer. He doesn't tell her anything and replies in a way that implies she's being a nag. Meanwhile, knowing he'd be expecting an explanation for her flat stomach, the woman proceeds to tell him how she lost their child. Ty doesn't sympathize with her. He only suggests that they try again for another child. The woman admits that she doesn't want to repeat the cycle, but she lets him have his way again. Piggy, the second film. Piggy follows the story of Sarah, a plus-size teenager who, against her better judgment, decides to take a dip in a pool. But her relaxation turns sour after she is forced to leave the pool naked and also bears witness to a bloody abduction. The movie opens with a small pool in a village. A teenage girl named Sarah comes upon this pool. Seeing no one around, she decides to go for a swim. She doesn't realize that there is a van parked beside the pool, suggesting that there are occupants in or around the pool. She leaves and the next time she comes out, she's in a bikini. Although she begins to second-guess her decision to take a swim, the thrill from the cool water splash gets the best of her, and she decides to go for it. Now closer to the pool, more items reveal that Sarah isn't the only one at the pool. Just outside, there are broken glasses and a phone, but Sarah doesn't take notice of them. As she turns to take a dip in the pool, a man emerges out of the water, which stops Sarah from going in. However, before she can react, 3 teenagers come along and begin to make fun of her, calling her Piggy. Sarah is accused of not informing them about her boyfriend, who is the man in the pool. However, it is obvious that the two have no form of relationship whatsoever. The man doesn't try to correct them, he only observes the interaction between Sarah and her bullies. Sarah, on the other hand, jumps into the pool to drown out their voices. As the teasing reaches its peak, the man makes his way out of the pool. At the bottom of the pool, there's a lifeguard who has been tied together and gagged, but Sarah is unaware of this. When she emerges from the pool, she doesn't see the girls, so she's a bit relieved. However, a leaf skimmer is immediately thrown overhead, causing her to struggle to breathe as her head is trapped inside it. Sarah tries to fight her way out of the net, desperate for help. She cries out to one of the bullies who used to be her friend. It turns out that both Sarah and Claudia used to be best friends, and they even have matching friendship bracelets on their wrists. Sarah continues to cry out to Claudia for help, but she isn't given a response or any form of help. Instead, Claudia packs up Sarah's clothes and leaves with the other girls. Sarah tries to get her stuff, but she's unable to. Left with no other choice, she opts for walking down the road with only her bikini on. Along the way, she encounters a group of teenage boys who call her names. While walking over to her, 2 of the boys assault Sarah despite her attempts to get away from them. These attacks force Sarah to take a different route away from the road. Sarah walks down a new route and comes across a white van that resembles the one she saw parked by the pool. The owner of the van emerges from the bushes, carrying a body bag. The van approaches Sarah and stops right in front of her. As she looks up, she realizes that the van belongs to the man she met at the pool. While she wonders what the man wants, he throws her clothes out of the van. At the same time, a bloodied Claudia cries for help from the back of the van. Overcome by fear, Sarah is unsure if she is the next victim, but the man makes no move towards her, despite Claudia being covered in blood. Sarah ignores Claudia, just as Claudia ignored her earlier. Eventually, Sarah waves at the man, encouraging him to keep moving. After waving back, the man leaves with Claudia in the back of his van. When the van is out of sight, Sarah picks up her clothes, puts them on, and then contemplates calling the police. In the end, she chooses to blast music through her earphones, similar to the beginning. In another story titled 2 Strangers Who Meet 5 Times, the destinies of 2 men connect, leaving their future unpredictable. They first meet as children on a beach, and their subsequent encounters have different stories to tell. The movie opens with a man named Alistair walking to a cash point in a hurry. However, he is forced to be patient when he encounters another man named Samir Aziz withdrawing from the cash point. Alistair becomes racist and makes insulting remarks about Samir's culture. After Samir finishes using the cash point, Alistair's remarks force Samir to confront him. The two exchange words, with Alistair leaning towards racism. Samir decides that Alistair is not worth it and walks away, marking it as their second meeting. The third time they meet, Alistair is being considered for an official position in a company owned by Samir. Alistair receives positive remarks from his interviewers, leading him to believe that things will end positively. However, when Alistair meets the CEO of the company, Samir recognizes him, and their interaction takes a different turn. In the movie, Alistair and Samir have multiple encounters that shape their destinies. Their first meeting occurs when they are children, building sandcastles on a beach. Alistair's mother arrives and takes him home, separating the two. This marks their initial parting. Their second meeting takes place at a cash point, where Alistair becomes impatient with Samir, who is taking his time. Alistair makes racist remarks, prompting Samir to confront him. After a brief exchange, Samir decides Alistair is not worth his time and walks away. In their third meeting, Alistair is being considered for a job at a company owned by Samir. However, when they come face to face during the interview, Samir recognizes Alistair and recalls their previous encounter. This revelation leads to Alistair not getting the job. Years later, Alistair, now homeless, encounters Samir again in their fourth meeting. Although Samir seems to have no recollection of Alistair, Alistair recognizes him and recounts their past encounter. Alistair shares how Samir didn't hire him in his company years ago. Despite struggling to remember, Samir promises to return after using the cash point. When he comes back with a bundle of money, Alistair is touched by Samir's kindness, accepts the money gratefully, and tears up. Samir wishes him well and walks away. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to stay updated and receive more content like this.